Thanks for joining us, everybody. This is Guy McPherson here with Peter Miller, psychologist from Canada. And this time around, we decided we're going to tackle a series of questions or a series of issues that came to me under the heading, What is Climate Anxiety? And I'll include the link in the description of this video, not only this video, but however many videos it takes for us to work through this. And only in this first of, I think, half a dozen videos will I read through some of the information to give the background on why we're using this material. So again, this is from Colorado University at Boulder. It's at www.colorado.edu, and I'll include the information. First question, what is climate anxiety? The answer that they give, climate anxiety, also called eco-anxiety, refers to distressing feelings related to climate change impacts. This type of distress is often rooted in feelings of uncertainty, lack of control, and concerns over well-being or safety. Unlike other stressors, which are often personal, climate change is more universal, chronic, and often intangible. Because of this, climate anxiety has the potential to impact people from all walks of life. In fact, according to a survey by the American Psychological Association, more than two-thirds of Americans experience some form of climate anxiety. That's a lot, it seems to me. Peter, I'd like to, now that I haven't even introduced you, can you weigh in and talk about for a few minutes what you're up to and this idea that two-thirds of Americans experience some form of climate anxiety?
And Canadians, yes, or you mean North Americans, right?
Right.
Uh, so let's just say anxiety is a huge issue, regardless, probably of whatever's happening with the weather or the climate. Even if people weren't talking about the weather and the climate, and if that wasn't a concern or on the radar, people would still have anxiety disorders galore, because they get caught up in patterns of thinking about different types of things in ways that aren't helpful, all areas of life, right? Like it could be about family, it could be about marriage, it could be about work, it could be about anything about the future at all. Because again, I don't think we grow up in a society that prioritizes learning about mental health. And we've talked about this before. It's not really in the school system as a staple. It might be introduced here and there as a specialty topic once in a while, or you might have a guest speaker here and there. Um, I mean, in some places, I mean, I've heard that there could be some consistent offerings of types of learning, maybe in cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectical behavior therapy. But those probably are more few and far between and more of the privileged groups. I don't think the average person still to this day has an early developed understanding of what it means to be mentally healthy, how to work with the mind, how to work with your thoughts, how to work with your emotions, how to live in this human body thing. So, I mean, that is an issue to for us to reckon with. And then, I mean, when we start talking about things of a global nature that are hard to put into a perspective where you can really understand it, I don't even know if anybody completely understands exactly what's happening with the Earth. We have some clues, and we've done a lot of research in different areas, and we've been able to see some likely consequences of the ways we've been living. But I don't know if we still have a perfect understanding of it all. Maybe you can confirm that.
Absolutely not. I come across an article essentially every day indicating that we know less about what we thought we knew, or here's a new bit of information that indicates the information that we've been relying upon before is either wrong or it's pointed in the right direction, but it doesn't go far enough. So, yes,
Mm.
when it comes to the natural sciences, how we understand the world, the solar system, the universe for that matter, we don't have it all figured out. We
No.
never will.
Mm. Well, it's such an enormous subject area, just like psychology is an enormous subject area. So we do the best that we can with what we have at the time, basically, right? To try and make our way through whatever is happening, and try to accept and be at peace with whatever could be happening in the near future. But anxiety is probably like, gosh, I would say it's probably one of the number one common mental health problems. I just went to that movie about emotions. I can't even remember the title of the movie. Um, Gosh, that's embarrassing. But I just went with my kids last night about to watch it with them. I gotta look this up. It's funny.
I
Uh,
think there's probably more than one movie out
yeah,
there.
this it's well, it's the second cartoon about it. It's called Inside Out. Sorry,
Uh-huh.
Inside Out. Yeah. Anyway, so they in that movie it kind of depicts the life of a young girl growing up in her adolescence for this Inside Out 2, and the emotions are represented by different characters, and then they kind of go through some right and wrong ways of dealing with emotions. And there's one of the emotions in there is anxiety, and at one point it really takes over this child's mind, and she ends up falling apart. And but anyway, you can see, like, I mean, and climate change is not part of this girl's thoughts. It's all about friends and wanting to impress people and feeling like she's good enough and all this kind of stuff, like typical adolescence, right?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, she went into like full anxiety disorder, and it was a good depiction of that. I guess I'm just trying to say, like, it's such a common thing, and I suffered with panic disorder well before I met you or learned anything about all the serious climate related issues.
So, so it's
So
not my fault? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying people have anxiety and depression issues totally regardless of whatever they might learn about the climate, because it's not like necessarily the subject area that it's not necessarily the subject area that causes the issue. It's the way a person knows or does not know how to live in their body. So either you've learned how to work with your body, work with your thoughts and your emotions, and how to like come out on the other end still being stable, no matter what's going on in life, or you don't. Like either you know or you don't, right? And most people in my experience just don't know because that's the society we live
Right.
in.
And that plays directly into this article at the University of Colorado Boulder, because the article focuses on some of those topics that you just mentioned. And then the next subhead, I went through the climate anxiety section or subsection. And then the next section is how can climate change impact mental health? And climate change can elicit emotions like grief, anger, shame, loss, guilt, hopelessness, and fatigue, among others. And I
Right.
love that this article is willing to talk about this, willing to lay it all out there. These feelings can
Mhm.
stem from factors including direct impacts. Some people lose their houses, lose their livelihood, lose their ability to make a living, or various vicarious experiences around the globe. You don't have to watch anything on any of video platform for very long to realize that there's some crazy things happening out there that have never happened before, right? Hurricanes, floods, tornadoes like we've never seen. And
Mhm.
then the article finishes with, or distress related to future or existential threats. Yeah,
Right, right.
we're there. And those things are out there. And if you're willing to have an open mind, you come across them on a far too frequent basis.
Well, in Alberta alone in the last and British Columbia in the last 10 to 20 years, I mean, we're watching towns nearly get burned down or totally get burned down. I think there was a town in BC called Lytton in BC. It just got wiped out, like just burned down, like the whole town, like. And like my whole childhood, I never heard of anything like that, like ever happening. This is a recent phenomenon in the last, I think, at 10 to 15, 10 to 20 years,
Mhm.
that's occurring. Um,
Well, you,
so I mean, I don't know how people think about that. Like, do they just say that's just weather? Like when a whole town burns down, like as that, how would you respond if someone said, "Oh, that's just weather, guy. That's just the weather."
I hear it all the
Uh,
time. Are you kidding? That's where the conversation usually ends for me. You probably know the 70s and 80s rock band, the Eagles.
Oh yeah.
And so they had this song called Someplace Paradise, Kiss It Goodbye. I don't know what
Yeah.
song, I don't know what song that's from,
Mm. I'd have to look
but
it up.
it was just a couple or 3 years ago, maybe more than that, that Paradise, California burned up. It, it was
Right. Yeah, that was another town burned down in California. Right.
right, right. It was
Hmm.
Paradise, called Someplace
Okay.
Paradise, Kiss It Goodbye.
Mm.
That's a lyric from the song.
Right. Very,
And
very
I was there.
fitting.
I
Very
was
fitting.
there shortly after the town essentially disappeared, and I'm walking through the streets. It was
Yeah.
amazing. And that
Yeah.
song just kept popping up in my head.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Another town in Alberta, Fort McMurray, nearly burned down too.
oh yeah.
That was in the last 10 years or so. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It wiped out about half the town. I don't know, a portion of the town. I can't say. Don't remember for sure, but it was significant. And people were, having they would have videos of their dash cam and they're racing out of the town and there's flames all engulfing their vehicle. Like, this is just weather, right?
I've been reading, or I've been not reading a book about that fire. Um, and I've been not reading it because uh, as I've aged, I've lost interest in almost everything, including the ability to read anything beyond about a paragraph and a half. It kind of drives me crazy because I used to be an avid reader. I'd read a book every few days, and now I can hardly get through the in flaps on the inside of the book.
Right, right.
And
Well, maybe it
especially
isn't time
this
well spent at
book,
this point. Yeah.
this book, which is supposed to be a story about that town essentially going up in flames. And he got some of the terminology wrong, and that just drives me crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
you're writing the book about it. He'd written a New York Times bestseller previously, so apparently he knows how to write, but you can't distinguish between a surface fire and a ground fire. You're driving me crazy, man.
Yeah. You're getting some of that grumpy old man syndrome, I think, is what's happening
Absolutely.
here. The
I've had
grumpy,
that for
the
a while.
the grumpy old academic
Yes,
kind of thing.
I've had that for a while.
Mm. But I mean, I guess to put it in kind of a nutshell here. So I mean, you got to be pretty dense to be not seeing some of the really extreme things that have happened in whatever area you're in. So, different parts of the world are experiencing different intense varieties of climate change, right? Whether it's, I guess, hurricanes or floods or fire related activity, it's happening in more extreme ways. It's not just weather. It's like
Absolutely.
it's a nasty shit show is what it is.
Absolutely. And if it's not happening in your town yet or in your neighborhood yet, trust me, it will. And even if it's not happening in your area, even if you're a climate denier, you don't have to watch television or listen to the radio for more than 20 minutes to figure out that something's going on somewhere. And in fact, a lot of this stuff is happening around the globe.
Mhm. And I
Ah,
guess that's kind of the confusing aspect of it, like that it can be happening sometimes in some places, and other places can seem relatively normal,
right,
where it can lead you to believe, well, it's everything's just normal again.
right.
Like right now in Alberta, like we've had a very wet spring and early summer, and like in the last couple of summers, it was really dry, and we had a fire rip through Drayton Valley near where I live. Um, which was we thought that was going to be a town ending event too,
Hmm.
but it just ripped through a portion of the town.
Hmm.
But anyway, that was in recent histories. But now it's like a wet summer. So I
Right.
mean, that's why
Well, you know what
it can
that
be hard
means?
to understand.
That means climate change is a hoax.
Well, you could use that as a reason to say that, right? Um,
Absolutely. Okay,
um,
I'm gonna refer to this video, the first of maybe half a dozen or so, as
okay,
providing the background information for the questions to follow. And
sounds good.
the final um, subhead, the final subtopic in this from among three. We talked about what is climate anxiety. We talked about how can climate change impact mental health. And this third one is learning how to cope with climate anxiety can help us. We can sit with our feelings and the issues facing us. We can avoid becoming overwhelmed by our worries and feelings. We can avoid burnout and fatigue. We can continue to function and find joy in our everyday lives.
Mhm.
We can stay engaged in climate action, and we can, and I hate this one, we can instill hope for the future. And I dislike that one because the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary defines hope as to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true. I want a lot of things to happen or be true.
Right.
Hope doesn't make any difference one way or another. I can hope like crazy about becoming a millionaire tomorrow. But you know
Right.
what? The $1 million aren't going to show up.
No, it's a strange word, and we could probably do another whole video on that again, like contending with trying to learn how to use that word or not use it, how to put that word in perspective, and why people use it by and large. It's a strange word.
And yes, yes, and I mean it's biblical, right? There's the
Mhm.
faith, hope, love thing that I heard a million times when I was a kid growing up. And
Yeah, it's almost like that word has been institutionalized. Like a lot of things have been institutionalized, like Christmas has been institutionalized. Um, it's like you're not doing if you're not celebrating certain things, then you're really not you're not even sane. You're not even a sane person.
right,
Yeah.
right. I suspect that's exactly where we are now. And
Hmm.
once you understand that there's an actual definition of hope that runs counter to how we frequently use it, then it becomes difficult to carry on a conversation with somebody because everybody else is talking about
Hmm.
hope all the time. I hope this happens. I hope that happens. And so I've tried as frequently as possible to substitute hope with wish because most
Okay.
people understand that when you're wishing that it's not guaranteed to have a positive outcome, right? I'm just wishing something will happen.
Like I think it's helpful to envision what you want to achieve. Um, but I guess if you get too fixated on the outcome, then I don't know if you're working on the project very well anymore. You could get just fixated on the ritual of hoping, like rather than working on the project. Like if I want to complete a song and I just keep imagining how awesome the song is going to be, and I just spend a lot of time imagining and hoping, that probably takes away from the time of actually working on it, right? Like, and even, just because I hope and wish, it doesn't mean that it's going to turn out as awesome as I believe. Like
Right.
a projection doesn't actually, it doesn't, like, I think this is what a lot of people honestly believe. Like, if you project it, if you see it, it will turn out exactly like that. Is that true, right?
That hasn't been my experience.
Like, I think you can approximate what you want, but to get exactly is pretty not really realistic.
Right.
No, but
Well,
yeah, people. I mean, living in reality is something that I think we've lost in a lot of ways.
yes,
So,
absolutely. And so, with that as background, I want to turn to relatively short conversations about half a dozen different items. And so, this has been the background. And where we're headed is these half a dozen topic areas. Focus on what you can control, avoid overload, never a bad idea. Practice compassion, always a good idea. Take a break from climate news. Yeah, good luck with that. It's
Mhm.
everywhere. Remember that you're not alone, and very few of us are actually alone. And talk to someone about how you're feeling. And in particular, you might want to talk to your resident therapist or psychologist. There are people out there who know about human emotions and how to deal with them in a positive manner. So, with that in mind, Peter, do you want to talk to us a little bit about your course, the free BP2 course? and tell us what BPD means? Because some of us forget a lot.
Sure. I'm just trying to improve the connection here for a second. Um, is it breaking up at all on your end? Just want to make
No, it's
sure.
fine. It's fine for me.
Okay. Must be my end. Okay, so the BPD course is freely available at freebpdcourse.com. And it's kind of it's like a story of my learning about how to work through a most difficult condition called borderline personality disorder that about 6 to 10% of the population is afflicted with. Um, and it's an especially important topic because about 10% of people who acquire the condition go on to commit suicide, and 40% attempt to suicide when they have borderline personality disorder because their emotional experience is much more intense than the average person. And so they can experience just that much more pain in everyday life. And especially if the people in their life don't understand a thing about it or how to be supportive, they can actually add to the pain quite a bit unintentionally. Um, and there can be a lot of unnecessary chaos, fighting, drama in relationships and families, and then people end up in so much psychic and emotional pain that they really feel like they have no other choice except to escape through suicide. Uh, but I mean, my hope and intention was that I don't want people to suffer in the same way because it's so awful. And there's lots of people like me who have done YouTube channels and other provided other resources and written books who have suffered with it because it's just if you have a conscience and if you have a sense of empathy for your fellow person, you don't want everyone to you don't want even 6 to 10% of the population to suffer like that because it's just so not necessary. Um, and there's a way it's treatable, right? So the tragic part is it's treatable, and a lot of people don't get the information and understanding that could get them through it. It's a long journey, so it takes months to years to develop new pathways in the brain that you can use on a regular basis. Um, but the point is that it's treatable, and if you have people around you who also understand how to support you through it, then you can actually I think you can get better that much faster. It's more efficient because a lot of the things that go wrong happen in interpersonal interaction.
Mhm.
Um, the person could be not managing their emotions and then express things in ways that aren't effective. And then the people seeing and hearing that can respond in ways that aren't helpful and effective. And so it just gets into increasingly toxic territory. Um, I mean, if people were to be truly honest with themselves, and even if they don't see it directly in their own family, they've probably seen it elsewhere. This is incredibly common stuff that people have a hard time being honest with themselves and even talking openly about it. But I reached a point when I was practicing as a psychologist and in my own journey, and I was just like, this is bullshit. Like this is where I'm just don't even care anymore. Like about I'm going to be honest about it, whether my name is on the line, my reputation is on it. I don't care because people understanding what this is all about and how to make improvements is much more important than my little reputation, right? Like, I think it's the decent humanitarian thing to do, and so that's the way I've been proceeding for the last about I developed that course in about um, 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. And it was refined a few times to the stage that it's in now. And it's still not the best resource. There's lots of others that do it and talk about it better than me. And I'm happy to be one among many and to really appreciate those other people too, because I know exactly where they've been and why they did what they did. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for that.
Yep.
And we're gonna wrap this video right there.